Okay, Jerry, I think it's time. So let me hand over to you for the training to start. I'm sure our other colleagues will join us whilst the training is ongoing. Thank you. Jerry.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself. My name is Jerry Sam. I'm part of the APPN training group. Our idea is to, orient all of us to the latest trends in parliamentary reporting. We're going to look at so many different topics, but we're going to start with the basics. Oh, first of all, I work with an organization called Pen Plus Bytes. We are based in Ghana. And we've been training journalists since 2001 on using digital tools to enhance journalist work. Over the years, we're doing other things as well, but I will not take you to other things that we do, but we'll focus on today's training. It's quite basic, so indulge us because some of the things you know already. And when I was putting the manual together on this, it's brought me back to level 100 in journalism school. So many things that I have forgotten, and I think it's a good exercise that we do this to put us in the right frame for the other advanced models of the course that we're going to, go through. So today we're going to talk about introduction to media practice. We'll look at some key concepts, and then so that's the basics. And then I will take you into, my comfort zone, which is technology, and then the new trends in reporting or news coverage, and especially linking it to Parliament. So we'll look at introduction to various forms of media, which you know already, the importance of media in democracy and governance, because we treat in Parliament. That's what we're talking about this. And one key area that we'll be looking at is ethics in journalism. It's something that we always do. We want to always go back to basics in whatever we do. And then we look at key concepts in media coverage. It's quite extensive. We just picked a few. And then we'll look at investigative reporting, practical skills. We'll look at some case studies and we'll do discussions. So we'll break out to do group work. And then we'll look at future trends. I want us to be very interactive. I think earlier on we said that we're not going to we're going to mute everybody, but at some point you have to unmute yourself because I'll be asking us to contribute whilst we go along. We have about 2 hours to go, so forgive me if I rush a little bit because I think we have quite a lot of bases to cover, and then also we have the French component. So at my usual talking, I'm going to slow down too. But if you have any issue or you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so introduction to various forms of media. I would have actually liked us to introduce ourselves. Gilbert, do we have that? Can we do that, or we should go ahead? Gilbert.
Well, Jerry, you are our facilitator for today, so we are in your hands.
Okay, so since we don't have time, I think if it's a good opportunity actually that if you want to be known, you can actually ask a question or contribute. But beyond that, because of time, I would like everyone to write in the chat your name, your country, and if you're a freelancer or which media house you report for. Thank you. Okay, so basics. So introduction to various forms of media. So typically we have various forms of media, but we have print, we have broadcasts, and then we have online or digital. Okay, Gilbert, I'm getting distracted admitting people. Is somebody able to do that? Hello, Gilbert.
I am doing that. You can.
Because I'm also admitting people. Okay, so I'll ignore it then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have print media, which, as we all know, it covers newspapers, magazines, and books. Characteristically, print media is more analytical and in-depth in this modern day balance, it's more one way. So you read the newspaper and it's one-way communication. It's not two-way as we have with social media and the rest. And then we have broadcast media. So this looks typically at radio and television. It is more immediate and visual or audio-wise. So that is broadcast. And then we have digital. So digital, we're looking at mobile apps. So we consume news through mobile apps. We're looking at social media, and they are more interactive, and they allow for user engagement. And at the moment, there is a merge, a confluence between print broadcast and digital media. So you find that most television stations or radio stations, print media are simulating what they are doing offline, online into digital media. And then one of the other basic areas that I want us to talk about is importance of media in democracy. So what role do we play as journalists in democracy? So the first point of call is access to information. So one of our key areas that we work around is making sure that our consuming public have access to the relevant information to make informed decisions about the governance process, about political leadership, about policy. And it's very, very important that we stay objective and skilled in a democratic space. In a democracy also, we, the media, we serve as a watchdog. When I say we, the media, and I'm counting myself, I'm actually a trained journalist as well. We count ourselves as a watchdog and checking government actions and holding those in power to account, and making sure that we perform that checking function that ensures that elected officials uphold their oath of office and campaign promises. In a democratic space also, the media, what we do critically is one issue that is worrying most of us, which is the shrinking democratic spaces or shrinking governance spaces. So you find in most countries, people find it very difficult to do demonstrations. People find it difficult to have avenues or platforms to have their voices heard. And the media plays that role of expanding the democratic space. So we do that by either our phone-in programs that we do, our phone-in programs that we allow people to participate in. The media houses do offline programs. We do debates and all of that. So we play a very critical role in the democratic space. One, by making sure that people have access to information. Two, by holding elected officials to account, by probing and making sure that they stick to the oath of office. And the third one, which is very important, is that we are allowing diverse voices to be heard. We are expanding the democratic civic space, which is very, very crucial. And all this, contributes to good governance. Then the crucial bit that we're also going to talk about is ethics in journalism. So the principles of ethical journalism, I mean, there are so many principles out there, but what I'm presenting now dwells on the Society for Professional Journalists, who have come up with these 4 key areas. And the 4 key areas is looking at, seeking the truth and reporting it, minimize harm, act independently, and be accountable and transparent. So ethical journalism for me is the foundation of credibility, trust, and the enduring impact of journalism. It is the responsibility of journalists to report the truth and to do so in a way that is fair, accurate, and impartial. And this has to be reflected in our work in Parliament. So under seeking the truth and reporting it, we should be honest in our work, fair, and courageous in gathering reporting and interpreting information. We should always test the accuracy of our information from all sources and exercise care to avoid inadvertent error. We shouldn't distort, information. It's not allowed to distort information to serve our own means. And then also when we are advertising, we should do so that we are advertising. And when we are doing that, so we shouldn't blur it with the news as well. So we should seek the truth and report it at all time. And then the next one, which is very dear to my heart, is minimizing harm. So this refers to, treating our sources, our subjects, people we are interviewing, our colleagues as human beings who deserve respect. We shouldn't lord over them if, we have so much knowledge of an area to make people feel ignorant. And we should show compassion for those who will be, affected adversely with the news coverage. And compassion here means that we should respect, how the news is going to impact people. So in Ghana at the moment, we have serious flooding in some parts of the country. And, if we report them, then we should pay attention to, people's privacy. We should, pay compassion to their loss and all of that. And we shouldn't sensationalize, reporting in such sensitive issues. And talking about sensitivity also is when we're reporting about children, we should be very sensitive, and also inexperienced sources. So you find a lot of voice pops that, almost like comic, but we are just exploring people's ignorance just for laughter. And that should not be the right way to do, because at the end of the day, you are exploring somebody's ignorance for laughter, and you don't know the psychological effect that it will have on these people. And then one critical thing also that we shouldn't, offer news for favors or for money, in what we call in Ghana asole. We shouldn't, demand money before we, do particular stories. And then avoid bidding for news as well. The next one is acting independently, which is the highest and primary obligation of ethical journalism. We are just here to serve the public. So we need to be very, very independent in the way we do our things. We should avoid conflict of interest, either real or perceived. Reporting parliament, sometimes, I'm talking for me, for instance, our Ghanaian parliament, you have a journalist working there for, so many years. And the probability that that person will be aligned to a particular politician or political party is quite high. And then we should, we should try as much as possible to remain free of associations and activities that will compromise our integrity or damage our credibility. So we shouldn't be aligned to any political party. Even, yes, we all vote, but it shouldn't be glaring. When we are reporting, we should be very, very independent. And we should be vigilant and courageous about holding those, with power accountable. And we should avoid, political and otherwise other outside activities that may compromise our activity or impartiality or may damage our credibility. And then the last one is being accountable and transparent. So we should, let people know the way we gather our news, how we come about our news. We should clarify and explain news coverage and invite dialogue with the public over our conduct. And then we should encourage public voice, of grievances against the, our work. So we should be able to, accept our mistakes and, issue rejoinders as immediately as possible, when we're doing our work. So in a gist, this is about, ethical journalism. There are so many of them, but this 4 stands out and it cuts across, most of the work that we do. Is there any question before we move on? If you have a question, you can raise your hand. Okay, if we are good, I'll carry on. One thing also that I want to mention about ethical journalism is about sensitivity towards cultural differences and diversity in our reporting. This means that we have to be aware of the potential impact that our reporting will have on different communities and taking steps to ensure that reporting is fair and accurate. So, we have to be mindful of potential harm that our reporting may cause and taking steps to minimize the harm. So that's about sensitivity, which also, goes into our ethics. Okay, so key concepts is quite a lot. I did not want to flood our slide with all of them. And so I just picked, these three for now, which is the freedom of the press, media laws and regulations, and objectivity and bias. So what does freedom of the press mean? Freedom of the press really is, our rights as journalists to report the news and express opinions without any censorship, restraints, or fear of retaliation. And I mean, it's considered as a fundamental human right and a cornerstone of any democracy. Press freedom really is essential for holding governments and other powerful institutions accountable, exposing corruption and human rights abuses, and informing the public about important issues that they need to contend with. Media, overview of media regulations in Africa. It varies widely, but many countries have laws that restrict press freedom. These laws may include restrictions on what can be reported, licensing requirements for journalists and media outlets, and even criminal penalties for defamation and other offenses. So we definitely have to understand defamation laws in our country, which really is developed to protect individuals and organizations from false reporting and damaging statements by others. However, these laws can also be used to silence, which most of you will know, silence legitimate criticisms and investigative reporting. So it's important for us journalists to understand the legal standards for defamation in our countries and to take steps to minimize the risk of lawsuits, which we all fall under, so many times. We also have to understand, copyright and intellectual property rights, which is designed to protect our original work, and then also making the right attributes to where we get our materials, and it's very important, to protecting the ownership of news stories, photographs, and other content, because, I mean, we do all this efforts to come about this content, and if somebody takes it, it's not fair on you. So the same way, you also have to pay attention to, other copyright laws, and we must at all costs be mindful and careful and respect these rights and obtain permission to use copyright material. And then objectivity and bias. This is it's a fine line that we have to always navigate. And it's a principle of, being fair, accurate, and impartial, in our reporting. We must always try to avoid personal biases and opinions and present all sides of an issue and fact-checking our reporting. And as you all know from your experience, objectivity is essential for building trust with our audiences and maintaining credibility. And then in terms of recognizing and minimizing biases, we must, maintain objectivity. We all have our biases that can influence our reporting, but it's important to recognize that biases, recognize our biases and take steps to minimize them, or else it will impact our news negatively. So how do we minimize it? We have to seek diverse perspectives. One thing that I teach when I'm teaching media and information literacy is how do we break out of our filter bubbles? Do we read only one thing or one area all the time? Or do we balance our news? Do we do fact checking? Do we do diverse perspectives? Do we read things that normally does not align with our opinions and thinking? And we have to be very, very transparent about our methods and our sources. Other concepts that I did not list, but I feel that it's important, but then also I feel that you already know, is the concept of agenda setting, which we know. If you don't know, you can raise your hand. The concept of gatekeeping. And gatekeeping, I met a senior journalist some time back, and he was telling me that gatekeeping really is the means by which the editors get us, the readers, to read what they want. So most of the things that we are reading or seeing or hearing is actually the choice of the editor, and that's his way of explaining gatekeeping. I mean, the way is true, how gatekeeping works. So basically, it's, decide which stories make it to the public. And it involves filtering, selecting information, and influence narrative presented to the audience. We have framing as well, and framing, from the time I learned it in journalism school is, how we present news in particular ways that, influence public perception. Sensationalism is also another concept and involves presenting information in an exaggerated or emotional manner to capture attention and boost viewership or readership. Usually we'll try to advise people to be objective and stay away from sensationalism. And then one of the other concepts is media and information literacy, which my organization, Pen Plus Byte, is leading those efforts in Ghana. It's about how we are educating and training people about how the media works, how to assess information, how to be analytical, how to create content, how to reflect on news before you share it, how to take action in terms of seeing fake news or disinformation or misinformation. So those are some of the concepts that we have. Okay, can I pause? So techniques of investigative journalism. I would like to ask if anybody has done any investigative piece in parliamentary reporting or have come across any investigative piece in covering parliament.
Sure, I have.
Okay, can you share? What area was it and what was it about?
Okay, I've done quite a number, but let me just share this particular one. Usually lawmakers, I cover the National Assembly. I'm from Nigeria. I cover the House of Representatives, to be precise. My name is Lizzie Chikpi. So there was this, lawmakers usually would, there's what they call constituency and zonal intervention projects in the Nigerian parliament. And these projects are embedded in the budget. And the lawmakers decide on what projects they want to carry, they want to be done, they want done in their constituency, and then domicile these projects with agencies of government. Because in the past, they were giving money to execute these projects, but they noticed corruption and decided that, okay, let the executive be the ones to execute this project. Why the role of the lawmaker is to nominate a project in his or her constituency that he or she finds useful or beneficial to their constituents. So this lawmaker from the Federal Capital Territory had a project, a water project. And in that project, it was supposed to be a dam in a very remote area in the Federal Capital Territory. That village is called Kwaku. So in the process, we have a project in my office, which we still run till date, called Construct. So what Construct does is to look at constituency projects, X-ray constituency projects done by these lawmakers and see the quality, whether those projects are done, amount of money released for those projects, and then the quality of the project. So we went to this community. I decided to go to this community. It's not motorable. A car takes you to a certain point because the place is very, very bad, terrible road. Then I was on a bike for more than 3 hours.
Wow.
Headed to this village. Even on the bike, it was rainy season, so there were places where I had to drop off from the bike, push the bike man and the bike to cross muddy areas. and where there was much water. And we did that for more than 3 hours until we got to the village. Kwaku is under Apache local government in the Federal Capital Territory. So finally, I got to the community, and then where is the dam? I now began another journey into the bush, which took me another 1 hour into the bush to try to locate where this dam was located. And finally, I got there. At a point, the bike could not even carry me again because there was no accessible road into the dam or to the place where the dam was located. So I trek and I dropped from the bike and I'm trekking. I tell the bike man, just wait at this particular point where you have dropped me. Prior to entering into embarking on this journey into that village or to the dam, I had gone to the local chief to seek permission, and they gave me one of their youths to follow me to the place that they knew what I was talking about, that dam was actually owned by Fadama, not by any lawmaker. But I insisted I'd love to see it. So they took me, the youth led, 2 of them led me into this bush, and I got there and there was it wasn't really a dam per se. It was just a water space, dock for agricultural purposes. So that Fadama, it's like an NGO that assists, try to get water for farmers and animals in such communities in Nigeria. Is not only in the FCT to assist them in their plants or farming. So on reaching there, I came back and I asked the lawmaker. In fact, I came back and I interviewed the community head and some villages, some of the villagers around that I could see, and they said that yes, they know the lawmaker I was talking about, but that project was owned by Fadama, and that, in fact, since the lawmaker came and asked for their vote when he came to campaign and won his election, they have never set their eyes on him again. Wow. And I come back and I called the lawmaker, please, I'm trying to trace this project. So it's in the budget. I saw it in the budget. Please, I went there and I couldn't see any dam. Oh, the lawmaker now says, so sorry, the place, that place, we couldn't mobilize equipment to the area because of non-accessibility of road. That project has now been converted to boreholes. And the fact is, you cannot convert a project that has already passed through appropriation on your own. That project has to go back to the National Assembly. It has to pass through appropriation. As a lawmaker, you cannot appropriate what you did not appropriate. So that is the bottom line. So you see of these things.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I did a humanitarian story about it. One, there was no water in that community apart from that particular river, no source of drinking water. No, they said they have not had light for more than 20 years. So I came back and I did a humanitarian story apart from the investigation on the illegal appropriation of a project. So BBC even called that they saw that story and they were interested. They would like to go to that community. So that's just one of those investigations that I've carried out. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. I like that input. I mean, the key thing for me is that yes, we need to do investigative pieces and follow the money in parliamentary reporting. So if, for instance, a minister comes to the floor of parliament and says that they have done this, they have done that, they have done this, do we take it as they say it on the floor, or do we go back and investigate and find out, yes, is the work done? Is it a well or a borehole? What type of work have they done? they say they constructed the road. Is it tarred? Is it asphalted? Is it going per what is being stated in Parliament? So yes, it's very, very important that we do investigative pieces and not just cover Parliament as in covering debates, but then we should serve the public, which is what we mentioned, that one of our key fundamental work is to serve the public, to make sure that what is being said is in Parliament is actually serving the needs of the populace, and then also making sure that promises or assurances made on the floor of Parliament is actually being implemented to serve the needs of the public. So I mean, investigative journalism really involves in-depth research, because it involves research, like what our colleague just shared. There was some research work done. It involves in-depth reporting, because you have to go behind the story to uncover hidden information and also expose wrongdoing, which is very, very important, because there are issues of corruption. If in the budget reading, a certain amount of money is dedicated to do a particular project, and you find out that not all the money allocated is being used, then that is wrongdoing, and the money is going to somewhere else, which is corruption. So some of the techniques that we adopt, you can add to it, but this is the general technique that we adopt is conducting interviews with sources and experts. So like this one that was shared, we interview the community leaders, we interview the youth in the area. We can also interview experts in that particular area. If it's oil and gas, they need to find somebody in oil and gas to tell you what those contract terms means, and then also find out other sources and interview them. One of the critical areas.
Sorry, sir, let me even add, I did not just interview the lawmaker or the villagers, I also went to the ministry where the alleged water project was supposed to have been domiciled, the Ministry of Agri and Water Resources. So that is how far to balance from all sides. Correct.
So it's all part of the techniques, in the interview, all the relevant sources to the particular story that you are pursuing, and also the experts. And then what I was coming to also is, can we mute ourselves, please? We also have to review public records and documents. So when you review public records and documents, then you can actually, look at, biases. So if you review public records and documents, for instance, you can review the annual budgets for the past 5 years. And through your review, you can tell that, allocation is, you can, determine if allocation is done unfairly. So if, for instance, the president comes from, or the lawmaker comes from a particular area, over the past 5 years or so, you can tell from your review that projects are going to one particular area. Why is that so? Then you can go further to investigate why projects are going in one particular area and not in other areas, so that you can reveal corruption and wrongdoing, and also biases. I mean, we've had instances in Ghana, for instance, that will say that the president's hometown or home region is seeing more developments, or a particular political party stronghold is receiving more developments than other areas. And this is a story to tell. Why is other parts of the country being neglected? And you can tell this by reviewing records and documents. You can also analyze data and statistics, which is also similar to reviewing public records and documents. And we'll come to AI, at the tail end of our discussion. And AI can help you to do all of this, can project things for you, in doing this. And then using undercover reporting and hidden cameras to expose wrongdoing. So bribes, lawmakers taking bribes to pass legislation, committee meetings if it's allowed, how do you do this using, undercover reporting? And then it's also very important that you don't go alone. Most of the time, if you are doing investigative pieces, because it's in-depth and you're going behind the story, sometimes you need some competencies to help you to do, a full-blown story. So maybe a journalist who is very good at data journalism, you can collaborate with that particular journalist to help you, to go through big data, to analyze and then present your findings. And then last one, that you need to always adopt also is fact checking and verifying information. So that's also another technique that you need to. So fact checking. Recently, I'll use Ghana again. We had a dam spillage in our Kosovo, our hydro dam, and there was supposed to be a contract awarded to another company to go and do fumigation. Once you fact check it, then you can see that, okay, how come that contract was awarded on sole sourcing? Why is it that it wasn't made a competitive bidding? Through this fact checking and stuff, you are able to unearth, wrongdoing, and you're able to bring out hidden information in your investigative piece. How do you identify, areas within Parliament to do your investigative piece or in-depth reporting? What potential stories within Parliament requires our deep understanding or needs us to do investigative pieces. And, it means that we have to have deep understanding of the political landscape and issues that matter to the public, and this will help us or lead us to do, particular stories, like the human interest stories that was just shared. This water issue, which is very relevant to the people, is a need of the public. It's a matter of public interest. So you pick it up. But another way of, knowing which area to do is, which I do quite a lot, is conducting surveys or polls to gauge public opinion. So you can do, a quick online survey on Twitter, or where you feel that, you have a lot of people using that your media house's handle or your own handle, if you are very influential, to ask people about areas within Parliament that you feel that they need to know more about, to do an in-depth reporting or investigative piece. That can be done. You can also, find areas through actually attending parliamentary sessions and committee meetings if you are allowed. And those, especially committee meetings, a lot of issues come up that you can pick on and, drive home with it. And of course, we mentioned already reviewing parliamentary records and documents. And another area, which, the user-generated content, which we find on social media, by monitoring social media and news outlets for breaking news and trends. So a bill is presented and all of a sudden, a lot of people are discussing it on social media. Then it means that there's, an intriguing interest in there that you need to pursue to find out why people are interested in issues to do with land, issues to do with mining, issues to do with infrastructure developments, issues to do with education and health. What areas can you pick on? Social protection policies, which has an impact on the poor and vulnerable in the society. How come that allocations to social protection policies are dwindling and allocations to a particular area is increasing? What is the cause? Why the reason? And you can use that to, undertake more investigative pieces. Then the next thing that you need to look at is ethical considerations in investigative reporting. So here we'll have a good discussion here, but I'll just touch on it a little bit. Some of the things that you need to pay attention to when you're doing investigative pieces in terms of ethical consideration is protecting the privacy and safety of sources, avoiding conflicts of interest and maintaining independence, fact-checking and verification so that you know that whatever you're reporting is accurate, and then the balancing public interest with the potential harm to individuals and organizations. Okay, are we clear on the investigative reporting? Okay, the ones that just came and joined us, we started the exercise by writing your name, your country, and then which media house you report for. Okay, another basic area that I'll take you through, which I'm sure a lot of you know already, but indulge me, is conducting effective interviews with parliamentarians and experts. And what I would like to say is that it requires preparation. A lot of our lawmakers, are already professionals. They come in with their own expertise already, You find in certain countries, most of the lawmakers are actually lawyers. Some are educationists, and some are even doctors and what have you, and they're all very knowledgeable people. So when you are going to interview them, you need to actually research their background so that you don't find yourself wanting and embarrass yourself, because when they find out that you, this particular journalist, every time you ask very basic questions and your questions is not really serving any purpose, then the next time you call for interview, the people will not turn up. So you definitely will have to research their background to know, previous, their standpoints, what are their voting patterns like, what policies are they aligned to? Are they pro? The only example that came straight to my head, but forgive me, is are they pro LGBTQI or not? Are they pro social protection, or that the state should fund socialist policies or more capitalist policies? What are their standings in terms of policy, so that when you're interviewing them, you're able to stake out where you want to interview to align with. And then you always have to prepare a list of your questions and topics that you want to cover, sort of knowing what to expect, so that if there's anything out of the ordinary, you can point it out and ask follow-up questions. And then listen actively, so that you can pick out certain areas that you did not even think of, but then the interviewee or the parliamentarian or the expert said it, and you want to follow up to get more. And then ask open-ended questions to encourage discussion. These people, politicians, as you find them, most of them are quite talkative, and they would like to say a lot. And when you open up as a discussion, you get more from them than having close-ended questions as well. And you always have to be respectful and professional. And then in doing the interview also, you need to develop rapport and ask probing questions. So most of the time, what I do is I start with easy, non-threatening questions just to build a rapport, because straight away you don't want to put them on their feet, and then get them to be wary of you. But then ask the easy and non-threatening questions. Use follow-up questions. Ask open-ended questions, as I said, and always be emphatic about what you want to do. So let me try a question. You guys report on Parliament. How do you handle difficult interviews and sensitive topics? Anyone? When you're interviewing a very difficult parliamentarian, or you're asking questions on a sensitive topic area, how do you go about it? Hello? I want us to be interactive. I don't want to be the only one talking in the room. Anyone? We have all not come across difficult parliamentarians before when doing interview. Anna, this time I hope I can hear you. Unmute yourself. Anna.
Hello?
Finally. Yes, I can hear you now, Anna.
I'm sorry, my network is so bad this side. But I just wanted to say, yes, how are you, everyone? I want to say, yeah, thank you so much. When you're having a difficult person to interview, first you have to understand his political affiliation, and you start with the easy questions that he might be interested in to hear, from you, so that when you ask that difficult question, maybe you put it at the end, you have established a special rapport with that parliamentarian. Because most of these parliamentarians, if you just go to them and ask a question straight, the one question that you want to hear about, they'll dismiss you there and there, and you have nowhere to go. But once you start talking about simple things, that they want to hear, these politicians, then you go to the tough questions. It helps you to get some of the content that you want, or answers that you'll be expecting. Hello?
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Yes, so yes, you hit the, the no right on the head. There are other instances also that, some politicians actually dislike the media in general. So you have somebody like Donald Trump. Trump does not like the media. Straight away, you go to them and then they tell you are fake news. So in that instance, yes, I like Anna's approach by, being, soft at the beginning, just to get their buy-in, simple questions that, they can easily respond to, and then you can dive deep into what you want to. But one of the key things that you need to do is that you have to be transparent about the purpose of the interview, and, let them know any potential consequences of your reportage. And then also you need to stay calm and professional, even in the face of hostility or aggression. Don't respond to them in the same way they are responding to you in a harsh manner. You always have to stay professional, remain calm, and then, go ahead exactly with what you want to do. And then at some point, you need to know when to end the interview or take a break. If you find out that the subject is being too hostile or the parliamentarian is being too hostile, take a break and end it and find another time to do that interview, or find another expert or parliamentarian that can give you the same level of information as well. Okay. So we are still at the basics, but as I said at the beginning of the training, all our training that we do, we try to go back to basics of our tools of our trade, because sometimes, over the years, it's a long time since most of us left school or left the university in learning journalism. So this is actually to take us back to refresh, our memories before we go into the deeper things that we're going to discuss, during the course of the training. Okay, so we're looking at news writing now, which is very basic, but indulge me again. So this one, I will not bore you too much. I'll just go through quickly. So in instruction our news articles for clarity and impact, it requires a lot of understanding of the story and also understanding of the audience, so that we don't report out of vacuum. And we always have to start with a strong lead that summarizes the story. Our W's and our H's, if you remember, we always have to organize our article in a logical and easy to follow manner, which I find quite, distressing these days. I read a lot of reportage and it's all over the place, that you can see that the lead and the body does not connect. The headline and the news item is totally different because it's not logical and it's not easy to follow. We always have to, as much as possible, as we mentioned, in our ethics, that we need to use quotes and anecdotes to add some interest and color to our reporting. We need to always have background, relevant background information and context, and always have to, end on a strong conclusion that ties the, story together. So this is, how, we should be, as much as possible aiming to write our news articles. If it's a blog, yes, then that one you are free to, do whatever. But if it's going to be proper representing your news media and yourself, then, it's good that you always have a very strong lead, organize your article in a logical manner, as much as possible, have a balance, don't just quote he said, or she said, but have a balance using different anecdotes and then quotes, background, information and context, and always conclude on a strong conclusion, and then tie all the pieces of the story together it's almost like a summary of what you have in the article. And then writing headlines. So I was going to ask, but I'll just go ahead, how we do write our headlines. But just to jog your memory from what you learned before in, writing techniques in writing, headlines, is that it's always good to use strong active verbs and descriptive language in your headline. Keep your headlines short and to the point. Avoid jargon and technical terms. And then testing, you have to always test headlines, which I do all the time. Test your headlines with the colleagues, to find out whether, they feel that the headline is appropriate. And avoid sensational or clickbait headlines, because when you do that, people will realize that you are just a sensational person. And over time, people are not going to read your stories because you realize that your headline and the body of your story does not, link up together. Okay, live reporting sessions from Parliament. So I don't know whether we all do this, whether we do live, reporting, or we go pick up the news and then later on go and report in the news. But in live reporting, Parliament, it requires, preparation, quick thinking, and ability to work under pressure. And some of the techniques for live reporting include preparing in advance by researching the topic and the parliamentary procedures. What are some of the bills that are going to be laid? What are some of the debates that are coming up? Which minister is coming on the floor of Parliament, so that you'll be able to do this, live reporting. Of course, you have to use shorthand, be aware of deadlines and time constraints, and be able to work quickly and accurately under pressure. And then be able to adapt to unexpected changes or developments in your live reporting. I'm sure most of us do live reporting. Is there any other techniques that you use in live reporting that you want to share? Anyone? Okay. I will move on because I think we are going almost on top of the hour and we still have a lot of bases to cover. So one area that's one of the things, Winfreda. Hi, Winfreda, you have the floor. Be brief. Winfreda, unmute yourself and talk. Okay, since we can't hear Winfreda, we'll go ahead. So here we're looking at case studies. Okay, Nelly.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to...
Is that Nelly?
Yes, this is Nelly from Kenya.
Hi, Nelly, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, just briefly, in relation to the live reporting,
yes.
One aspect that also helped me when I did that was, apart from looking up at the debates coming up, also looking at which legislation or bills are lined up and doing research on them and getting input from experts on these particular bills so that it will help in ad-libbing or part of the commentary as I prepare people for what to expect in Parliament that day.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's most helpful. Okay. So moving ahead, is that we all don't operate in a vacuum, and we have to adopt best practices and what others are doing. That's, is making them experts in reporting in Parliament. And one of the key ways of doing that is studying award-winning parliamentary reports. So who are the ones winning Best Reporter awards in Parliament reporting, both locally and internationally, and how are they doing it? And one of the key ways is that we study how they do it so that we can draw insights into what makes a story impactful and compelling. And some of the ways of doing it is identifying the key elements of the story. Who are the main characters? Is there any conflicts, and what are the resolutions that was adopted? You have to analyze the writing style and the structure of the story. Examine how they use quotes and anecdotes in story, and then their storytelling techniques. And also considering the impact of the story on the public and policy makers. So when you are considering the impact of the story on policymakers or the public, make sure that your story actually is relevant to both parties. Is your story relevant to the reading public or the listening public or the viewing public? In terms of policymakers, are you educating them? We've had instances that, it is through the journalist reporting, like Anna just said, like Nelly just said, sometimes even studying the bills that are going to be laid on the floor of Parliament and doing a report on it, you end up educating the parliamentarians to understand, what the bill entails, what the impact is going to be like, and you are informing them and educating them at the same time. And these award-winning stories almost always do this. And then, of course, you have to identify any ethical considerations or challenges faced by the journalists in doing this sort of stories. The next bit is also in understanding what makes a story impactful and compelling. So you also have to, make references to stories that you feel that are very impactful or have made a difference, or how do you write such stories? You have to always start with a strong lead that summarizes the story. Like we mentioned earlier, do relevant background information and context, and balancing the perspectives of different stakeholders is also very, very important in making sure that your story is impactful. So how do we stay relevant? We have to read news articles and reports from reputable sources all the time. We need to attend parliamentary sessions and committee meetings. You always learn something new when you go to parliament. And then we have to build relationship with other journalists and other media outlets so that you can use them as sources, or you can pick notes from them. And of course, how do you learn through workshops and training programs such as the one that we are dealing with. Okay, so I'll pause here. Does anybody have any questions? Because I want us to go into groups to discuss ethical considerations that we need to come up with, or what are some of the real ethical dilemmas that we face as journalists, in reporting parliament. So Gilbert. Hello, Gilbert.
Yes, hello, Jerry.
Okay, so I want to pause here so that we go into different groups to discuss some of the real ethical dilemmas faced by journalists in reporting parliament.
Okay.
And the groups will present at the end of their discussion. So Can we agree how many minutes do we need for this?
So can we do between 30 to 40 minutes for the group discussions?
Yeah, I think 30 minutes will do.
Okay.
Because it's almost we spent almost 1 hour already.
Yeah.
So we'll do 30 minutes and then come back and discuss it for the next 15 minutes and we conclude.
Okay.
So
colleagues,
just 1 sec before Gilbert device us. In looking at ethical dilemmas, some of the things that I'll give you examples to make it clear. Is looking at accuracy and truthfulness, sensationalism versus public interest, confidentiality and anonymous sources, privacy issues, conflict of interest issues, some of these, the ethical issues that we face in reporting parliament, social media and instant reporting, verification, and all of that. So these are some of the ideas that I want you to take into your groups and then come up with a list of ethical dilemmas that you face, and then also what guidelines, can we formulate, ethical guidelines can we formulate in parliamentary coverage. So over to you, Gilbert.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. So colleagues, we are going to break into 3 groups. And as we usually do, each group would have to nominate a convener and a secretary, just to, because these are the 2 people that would come back to present the work that your committee or your group has done. And we want it to be very interactive. So I'm going to create 3 groups, and all of you will be assigned to a room. We are doing it automatically. So all of us will find ourselves in a group. So immediately you find yourself in a group, the group should nominate the leader and the convener and then the secretary.
We'll start from group 1. If group 1 is ready, they can present what they came up with. Very briefly.
Yes, thank you, Jerry.
Hi, Nelly. Thank you.
Hi. Group 1 had Clement from Ghana, Enos from Zimbabwe, Mamuta from Lesotho, and Nelly, Kenya. And we discussed this issue and came up with some ethical dilemma. One was the issue of conflict of interest. And this comes about in relation to media ownership. Those who find themselves working for the state media get challenges in writing stories from parliament that seem to expose government or corruption in government. And so they are torn between being truthful, factual, and expose this issue, or they are bread and butter. So they are left torn in between this particular matter. And the other issue where conflict of interest also comes in is the issue of advertising considerations, that sometimes issues are raised in parliament that touch on advertising companies that mainly advertise in one's media house. And this again poses conflict into writing these stories. The other conflict also came in relation to where was this? In relation to, I think, Zimbabwe, where there are diverse interests in the media, among media owners. There are those, because of their political support to certain parties, will not like their outlets to carry anything negative in relation to those parties. And you find that stories come out, very nice stories, exposés about news that is of interest to the public. But at the end of the day, the ownership interests take precedent against public interests. So what conflict of interest as regards to those contexts is a major dilemma. And the other dilemma that came from Lesotho was the issue of social media and disinformation, that as a reporter from Parliament, because sometimes parliamentary stories are involving and they take time to get to their logical conclusion, people in citizen journalists are quick to put propaganda on social media, and people tend to rely mainly on social media to get stories from Parliament other than the credible outlets by parliamentary reporters. And this puts the parliamentary reporter in a dilemma sometimes to break it or to wait until they get all the facts. The other one was on privacy and disclosure, that you are in parliament and an MP tells you some very crucial information, and you go ahead and publish this information based after your research and getting the other sides of the story. And when this story is published and it gets a lot of reaction, then again this MP feels like because he told you the story, yes, and he went on record, but the speaker, through the powers and privileges, summons a reporter and they are put to task, and this MP denies ever telling that story to you or giving that information to you. So there was that issue in terms of privacy and disclosure. And also the other dilemma was protection of confidential information, just as in relation to the same privacy and disclosure. And this is where now you're told information in confidence. It is information you really want to carry, but then you're told don't reveal your sources. And yes, you're not supposed to reveal your sources, but when you're pushed to the wall about it, some have faced jail time here in Kenya for being pushed to the wall to reveal sources about a story that will happen in Parliament. So it's a dilemma that is facing many parliamentary journalists. The other dilemma is the debates on the floor. Sometimes members of parliament make defamatory statements about other people. As a reporter, you publish that and you're sued for libel. So it's a dilemma that it faces many journalists. And to the guidelines, we just had a few. We thought to address the issue of social media being a channel that churns out disinformation and putting the journalists in a dilemma whether to break it or to wait. We agreed as a team that it's important to maintain credibility and be consistent in publishing factual stories through your media and also through your personal handles, so that you come out as an authority, and people also learn slowly to look to you for credible news, because at the end of the day, the social media propaganda does not go far. And if you maintain an image that can be trusted and even have serious data and facts and pictures from Parliament, then you become an authority and people will rely more on you. The other issue of addressing conflict of interest is writing the story with all sides, balancing it in a way that it will be hard for the organization to kill it, and looking looking at it in an angle that does not really come out so strongly in a manner that your organization will feel like it is exposing anybody, but making sure that if you've talked to the majority, you also have the minority side and other people in it, so that the story is out, it's balanced, and it will be very hard to kill it. And on disclosure, I think we ran out of time before we addressed the guidelines on that, but mainly is just to be truthful, fair, and accurate in our reporting, and also being professional and getting the news in a professional manner, not using tricks to interview your sources, but making it clear to them that they'll go on record, and that you'll attribute whatever is said to them. If they don't want to go on record and they choose to be confidential, also protect your sources. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you, Group One. I think I should have stopped you somehow, because I suspect you said it all, and we should have put a time on it. But that said, that's very well done. What I would suggest is that, Gilbert, if you can reach out to the groups later on, I suspect that you wrote down your points, and we can share it together, and we can learn from each other. So that's very well, points well made. Okay, so I'll go to Group Two. If we can also be brief, because we are going again, our time is almost very limited. So Group Two, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, moderators. So our sister has said most of the things, but we'd still like to marshal out a few points that we feel that are very important. Like for instance, since we are talking about ethics, it is very important for journalists to imbibe the use of words of allegedly or insider. If you don't have, as a reporter, a journalist, you don't have accurate, or you cannot confirm an information or a report, it is good to use the word allegedly or unconfirmed. Unconfirmed report has it that this senator has collapsed and died. Unconfirmed report has it that because you were not in the chamber, the mace has been snatched by Honorable Degema. So such words should, a journalist should imbibe the use of this word. It is very ethical to use allegedly, unconfirmed, and then an information is coming from an insider, because you have the right constitutionally, as our sister have earlier said, to protect your source of information. You have the right to use the word insider, anonymous, and you can go ahead and quote that insider. In Nigeria, you're protected to use the word insider or anonymous and quote. Quickly, I move to gender bias. It is unethical for a journalist to, because you're a female or you believe in feminism and a female lawmaker is found wanting in a scandalous or is involved in a scandalous controversy, you do an opposite story to cover up. It is unethical. So gender bias, it could be the other way around, because you're a male and a male is involved in any scandal, you do a story that it's not factual or seems to be watered down in order to protect or cover up such a lawmaker, to me, it is gender bias. And another thing is sensationalism and insightfulness. There's a difference between doing a sensational story. As a journalist, you have to avoid sensational stories like the Muslim lawmaker or the parliament is divided over this issue because this Muslim lawmaker, it is sensational. And when you do a report and say a Christian lawmaker or persons in a particular constituency, for instance, are being killed, and you relate it to religion and say Christians in a particular community are being killed by Muslims in that community, that becomes insightful. And you can also bring it to the parliament where maybe lawmakers are debating on a particular issue. And for instance, here in Nigeria, oil is a major source of income. And most at times debates are around this issue on oil, like and then you are a Christian, you're reporting that Muslims lawmakers killed a motion that has to do with oil as against Christian lawmaker from the East that brought that particular motion. That is, you're inciting that the public, those Christians from another zone will not be happy, constituents will not be happy that the Muslims from the other zone killed a motion that would have been beneficial. It is only proper for, as a journalist, for you to report what actually happened. Because you're a Christian does not mean, and you feel pain about what has happened, and then you go ahead and report and come up, whip up sentiments and end up inciting one religion against the other or one region against the other. And in terms of social media, it is always good to fact check. A lot of informations are on the social media, and because you are pressured to report this information because almost every other media platform is doing it, and you later find out that such information it's not correct, it will be unethical to just keep silent or delete that information. It is ethical for you to go back, retract what you have written, issue a disclaimer, or apologize to your audience for such an information or for passing wrong information to them. So a lot has been said already, so let me leave it at this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Group 2. Thank you for the additions as well, because I was actually in your group, and most of the things that Nelly said we discussed as well. Okay, so once again, thank you very much. That was insightful. I think we've captured almost everything. Okay. Okay, so just to wrap, we have, just trying to jog my memory. Okay, so we've looked at key concepts in media coverage. We've, gone through some practical skills. We've learned about some case studies and international best practices. And we've gone very deep into ethical considerations in parliamentary reporting and how to counter it. We spoke a bit about press freedom, media laws and regulations, objectivity and biases, interviewing skills, writing and editing, field reporting and live coverage, the ethical dilemmas, which we have done good justice to it. We also touched on investigative journalism and reporting. We had a very good, brilliant experience shared by Elizabeth. And then also at the end of the day, I think we have to share our ethical dilemmas and considerations and what guidelines we need to cover Parliament. So I think we are almost on top of the hour. So I will go straight into, do we have any feedback or do we have any questions for me or Gilbert? If not, then we'll talk briefly about embracing digital innovations in journalism and covering Parliament, predicting the future and opportunities in parliamentary reporting. So the floor is open. If there's anybody have any questions they want to ask, we can.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
But it's not a question. I think it's just a suggestion. Why can't you create maybe a WhatsApp group so that it will be quick?
That is brilliant. So Gilbert.
Yes, Jerry.
Do we have a WhatsApp group already?
Well, we have the general WhatsApp group for all the members of the APPN. And so maybe what the person is referring to is a dedicated WhatsApp group just for the purpose of this training, so that participants can share ideas, can continue the discussion beyond this training. So I think we can explore that.
Okay. So that we can ask questions there and we can put in resources as well.
Certainly.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so that done, I'll conclude by talking briefly about embracing digital innovations in journalism and what the future holds for us, which can help improve the quality and reach of our reporting, parliamentary reporting. So some of the digital innovations that comes to mind in transforming our work and what others are doing is about data journalism and visualization. And we do teach data journalism and visualization. I think that would be a whole session on its own. I don't know whether we have it as part of our models. Gilbert can confirm later, but it's very, very important that how do we present our reports in forms of visualization. So a bill is laid, instead of writing it in a long text form, can we just visualize the bill? For our sharing on social media or even on TV, or even how we put it in print, so that at a glance people can see what the bill is about and what impact it will have on us as the public or as citizens. So data journalism and visualization is very, very important. Is the way to go these days. It's catchy. People will know you for what you stand. And at the moment, especially online, our readers are very, very impatient, and people don't want to read plenty because of the current digital age we are where information, there's just a deluge of information, that there's so much information. You wake up in the morning, you go on your Twitter feed or X feed, you go on your Facebook wall, even on your WhatsApp, there's so much links that are being shared, and visualization always stands out. We also have to, go deep into social media, using social media for good and audience engagements. We already mentioned about conducting polls on social media to find out where people are aligned, what people want to see. and it's very important that we utilize social media in terms of publishing our content, in terms of reaching people, in terms of even engaging people on some of our reportage as well. And then mobile reporting and live streaming, also very, very important. So mobile reporting and live streaming, basically it has actually revolutionized the way news is gathered and shared. And we can use our smartphones to capture live footage of events and conducting interviews. Recently, I had an interview done on, we ran a project called African Elections Project, and we had an interview done on issues in Liberia. Liberia just recently had an elections, and the Deutsche Welle journalists use a tool called LibDab. We'll share all the tools as well later on. So it's very good that we had a WhatsApp group, so we can share all the tools that are available. So this LibDab mobile app, quickly allows you to conduct interviews directly, and whilst you are doing that, it goes live on air with very minimal editing required to do that, and you're able to do things in the real time from the field. By live streaming events, you can engage audience immediately, allowing them to participate in the live discussions. They can ask questions during the live events or live streaming and provide feedback in real time. So it's very good that we adopt, using our smartphones and doing live streaming. It doesn't require you to do a lot of setup, because a lot of these phones are very smart in terms of editing, the picture texture, the brightness and all of that can be done in there. One area that is piquing my interest, but it is expensive, but I mean, if you are in a news media house that has the resources, is adopting virtual and augmented reality. It's actually, the way to go these days. And, you can do virtual reality documentaries, where you can, create immersive documentaries that allow viewers to experience the story from different perspectives, but it will require you to have, this expensive headset sometimes, but then it's the way to go these days, especially with Meta bringing in, all this augmented realities in future. So we need to start exploring, these spaces. And it allows us to do, augmented reality infographics, so you can point your device at a printed chart and it can trigger animations, provide you, display real-time data related to topic area. I hope I'm not confusing you guys, but then, I mean, it's the future, is the future trends. So you can actually, do a VR or AR tours, so virtual reality or augmented reality tours. So you can actually take people through your recordings or through your news story. You can take people to committee hearings or committee debates that is difficult for people to have access to physically, to be present. So the virtual reality and augmented reality can give you that sort of, opportunity to do this kind of stories. You can also even stimulate stories, where people can, realistically see how you do your stories coverage, who you interview and what have you, through this virtual reality simulations. And even interacting with your audience, they can engage you directly through audience engagement through virtual realities as well. So it's something that we can explore if we can have the resources to do it. So start thinking about it, start investigating. Some of these tools are quite cheap. The headsets are cheap, and also even the glasses are cheap as well, that you can invite your users to explore and use. The other thing is AI. I don't know whether any of you are using any AI tools in your reporting. So it can help us, as I mentioned at the beginning. We can use AI algorithms to do data mining. So the big data sets, we can use artificial intelligence to draw valuable insights for investigative reporting. So all you do is that just program all the the data into any of the AI tools, and it can predict, future trends and help you to forecast, areas such as finance, social issues that you can report on. So that's about, AI and machine learning, and even automated writing. So some of these AI-powered tools can generate basic news articles or summaries from, data for you, so that you can focus on the more in-depth and analytical task as well. So don't be scared of AI. Don't overuse it though, because when you overuse it, then you will sound very robotic. But then it can help you with the basics, and you can build on it. AI, you can use it for fact checking. So you can put the news in there, and it can analyze the information, against reputable sources, identify inconsistencies, and false claims. So this will save you a lot of time in making phone calls and what have you. The AI tools can actually do the comparisons for you and do verifications for you as well. And then you can use it also even for personalized content, because the AI can analyze user preferences for you and behavior to deliver, so that you can do more personalized content to serve your audience. So this is the bit that I wanted to add about the future and what digital innovations are available for us to explore in parliamentary reporting. I think if it's of interest, we can actually focus, do a full training on AI in the newsroom and how it can help us in covering Parliament. Without much to add more, I think we have exceeded our time a little bit. I would like to conclude here. If there are no questions, I'll hand over to Gilbert to close us out. If not, then I'm done. So Gilbert, in your hands.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Yeah.
Hello, Jerry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yes. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you to all participants for staying true with us. I noticed that during the breakout session, getting back to the main session resulted in some of our colleagues dropping off the meeting. I also noticed that the internet connectivity is a challenge, but it's one that we may have to bear with because we cannot do anything about it unless we pray that our African leaders helped us to improve upon the internet connectivity on the continent. But we will with these inconveniences. But more importantly, we hope that as we started this process, we stick true and we end it. We stick true to the end, so that we benefit from the knowledge that our resource persons have. So this brings us to the end of today's training. Our next training is going to be next week, at 12 MT, the same time on Thursday. So thank you all for joining. We'll pick the suggestions made to create the WhatsApp platform and have all participants on that particular platform to share ideas, and then the new data document that Jerry made reference to. So thank you all